Hi everyone, welcome to the next series of Your Next Stop Partnership. This is episode 7, and today I'm really pleased to say that I'm joined by Rhian Radia, who's Head of Employment and Partner at Bishop Sewell. I'm Luke Thompson, a Director at Introlegal, a boutique legal recruitment agency, and I'd like to just thank you, Rhian, for agreeing to come on board and get involved. So if you'd like to just formally introduce yourself again, and we'll go from there.
Sure, no, pleasure to be here, Luke. I'm Rhian Radia. I head up the employment team at Bishop Sewell.
So Rhian, I was intrigued to have you on, particularly from an employment perspective. Obviously, given the current climate, I suspect you're super busy at the moment. But I mean, could you just let our listeners know how you've had to adapt during this time, the type of cases you've had to deal with?
Yes, it's been really busy, perhaps for all the wrong reasons. I opened my inbox yesterday and there was just a large number of emails from people who are being made redundant.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm advising on lots of redundancies. It's also been quite challenging in terms of getting up to date and up to speed with sort of the government guidance, the furlough scheme.
Yeah.
It's been really challenging because it is just guidance, it's not law, and clients have needed help to furlough people urgently. So I think employment lawyers across the board have been really, really busy.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? I think obviously law is very, you have to be very adaptable as a lawyer, but I think given this is very much an unprecedented time, I mean, this is a classic example to any aspiring lawyers as to how quickly a lawyer has to adapt in certain markets. I mean, we've gone from a situation where only 11 weeks ago, no one heard of a furlough scheme, yet every employment lawyer across the country has quickly had to adapt. All their clients contacted them. So, yeah, I suspect you'll be relieved when this this period passes. But so, Rhian, if you would just like to let everyone know your journey into law, really. I mean, how did you find yourself becoming a lawyer?
Sure. So started off, I studied law and French at Liverpool University. Did my LPC at Nottingham Law School. Mm-hmm. Then moved to Birmingham. Was doing a bit of a tour of, I know it sounds like a bit of a tour of the UK, but spent my training contract at what was then Rag & Co. In Birmingham. I was perhaps, I think, around 2 years PQE, and London was calling. I just felt I'll miss out because I've never worked in London. I think that's where I want to go now. And so many of my friends were in London at the time. So I moved down and joined Herbert Smith at 2 years PQE and spent 8 really happy years sort of at Herbert Smith in the city. And then in 2013, I decided I wanted to do law differently. I think I'd always had this feeling that I wanted to act for employees, and I wasn't really able to do that in sort of the large commercial firms that I'd been at up to then. I mean, I wanted to bring the claims that I'd been defending for many years. So in 2013, I went along to meet Patrick Allen at Hodge, Jones and Allen, having, read great things about his firm and some of the great cases they'd worked on. And I was very inspired by Patrick. So decided to join him and set up an employment team from scratch. Wow. I don't think either of us knew whether it was going to work or not, or whether I was going to be able to find any clients. But I wanted to do it, and just never looked back, and have been sort of setting up employment teams for firms, mainly acting for employees, although now I'm acting on both sides since that time.
And then going back to training days, I mean, do you have any any best or worst memories of when you were a trainee you'd like to share with us?
I think the worst was my first seat. I'd spent 6 months traveling in Australia. I'd had an absolute ball, and to come back and just find myself in an office made me really question whether I wanted to do law at all. I remember my mother was just begging me to stick with it. But that first seat was a real struggle. And then I kind of got used to office life. But that was the hardest part.
I suspect that was just the reality of life, wasn't it, after travelling?
I think so. I think it was, yes.
So it's interesting because you touched upon something a moment ago when you said you were inspired by Patrick Allen to join that practice and then set up an employment team. And something you said there struck a chord with me. You said you didn't know whether it would work and how you'd go about finding the clients, but clearly you did, because obviously you are where you are today as head of employment at another leading firm. I mean, how did you go about doing that? How did you find those clients? For those looking to build on their commercial awareness and business development skills, I mean, what worked best for you? How did you do that?
Yeah, no, it was interesting because I couldn't promise anything, at the time. I couldn't promise a following, but I had a sense, I had a business plan, and I had a sense it was achievable. I just thought, I thought there was a bit of a gap in the market for high quality advice for employee clients. And I'd seen sort of, when I was working in the city, individuals being turned away because of conflicts, and they seem to be struggling to find high quality, good advice.
Yeah.
So I sort of got to work, sort of getting my name out there, sort of trying to attract that, that employee client base, really. So, I did that in lots of different ways. I wrote articles and just went along to networking events, and I was lucky to get referrals from the city where I'd worked before. That helped me as well.
Mm-hmm. And what's been the best business development? What's worked best for you in building that client base, would you say?
A lot of it is word of mouth, to be honest, Luke. I think if you do a great job for your client, they come back to you. Sadly, if they've having further workplace issues, or they recommend you to their friends. I mean, employment law isn't really too hard to sell in many ways. You can go to a birthday party and mention to somebody you're an employment lawyer, and they might call you the following week because something's happened to them at work. So sometimes it's just getting out there, telling people what you do, and just not being shy about that. For me, I think
Interesting, good point.
one case. Yeah, and I really believe in that. I think the days of promoting on age or PQE are over. I think if somebody is really good at what they do, then why wait to make them a partner? For me, I think there was a case that I was involved in, which that I worked on for around 18 months. Quite a battle. It was a large sex discrimination equal pay case, and I think it was on the back of that I made partnership. So sometimes it is about finding that case or finding that deal that then sort of puts you in the spotlight and provides partnership.
Because it's funny, because when James Stewart was one of the partners I had on as a guest on this same series, who's partner at Pennington Manchester Cooper, and he was saying that there is an element of luck with cases that can sometimes fall your way.
Absolutely. Yes.
But he was of the view that at the same time, as a partner or someone aspiring to be a partner, you have to make your own luck as well. You have to essentially put yourself out there as someone who's willing to do the types of deals that you essentially want to do more of. So in terms of, for example, that particular case, did you find then that led to more work coming from that client, or that then opened doors to work on similar size deals going forward?
Yes, I think once you work on a big case like that, with employment cases, there's often sort of a lot of confidentiality around the outcome. So you have to be quite careful. But yes, I think you sort of develop a reputation. Certainly, a recent injunction case I worked on. There's a judgment. People read the judgment. People see which firm acted on it, and work flows from that.
So how has being a partner changed for you versus when you were an associate? What in terms of your day-to-day working life? Obviously, you've got a caseload, and then you've obviously got a team. How do you manage that? Given how busy you are at the moment, that must be difficult.
Yeah, so it is. Being a partner is different. I think that perhaps the most important thing is to be out there finding clients. So it's not about being at the desk doing the work. I think a partner needs to be a leader, find the work, find clients, and inspire the team.
Yeah.
And a huge part of it is looking after your team as well. That's a part of being a partner I've really enjoyed, just bringing forward young lawyers, supervising, training them, and then watching them to go on to be brilliant, passionate employment lawyers. So I really love that bit of being a partner.
Yeah, well, look, I know lawyers who have worked both with you in the past and work with you now, and the feedback I have always had has been that they're, just a great person to work with. So I think that's I think that's a positive for anyone who wants to know a little bit more about you as a partner and obviously your team. And then obviously that leads me on to Bishop and Sewell as a firm. I mean, what would you say the most attractive features are about working at your firm?
So I've been at Bishop Sewell for just over a year now, and from the moment I sort of stepped in through the door, it's a house on Russell Square. I just really like the feel of it. I was very inspired by Stephen Bishop and his sort of story of setting up, his firm from scratch, with Jill Sewell back in the 70s, and he told me, I think you'll be really happy here. And I believed him, and he was absolutely right. It's a firm where people are really important. It's part of the vision of the firm that everybody feels energized coming into work every day. And I really like my colleagues, and I just think that's so important, and it can't be said about all law firms. So it's a great firm, and they're just backing me and supporting me to build my team from scratch. And that's wonderful.
And Rhian, what tips do you have for junior lawyers, in terms of their career, but what they need to be thinking about doing if they want to essentially become a partner, if being a partner is their dream? And what do you think they need to start thinking about doing now in terms of essentially looking to achieve that goal?
I think it's more than just being good at the law. That's kind of taken for granted. So it is never too early to start, sort of working on your BD skills. It's all about relationships. There's no magic to it. So from the very earliest stage, I think getting out there, trying to build a reputation, a bit of a brand for yourself, that's going to help you move faster towards partnership, I expect.
Look, Rhian, I'm really conscious that you are a ridiculously busy lawyer at the moment, and I am so grateful for you taking part in this. I mean, I always enjoy working with you. I think you're a lovely person. I think you're obviously a very astute lawyer, and I think that you're going to have a great future with Bishop and Sewell. And I just wish you all the very best in your journey there. And again, thank you very much, and good luck with the remainder of lockdown and the advice you're having to give your respective clients. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
No, not at all. Great to speak to you, Luke.
Thanks, Rhian.